Hello. I just want to let everybody know that the taco truck is now parked on the
The mic's not on.
So you hear me now? Good. Doing a little amplification about hand. So anyway, the taco truck is out front of the building, which should be behind you right now. And that doesn't mess you up on what else you did. Anyway, the stuff is great. I'm eating it right now. I can tell you firsthand that it tastes way better than the stuff I had earlier today. So if you want some, get some. This is for you. I just want to let you all know that the keynote speaker is a traffic victim. So he'll be out of his traffic jam in about 10 minutes. I'll go check on the traffic truck because there's an anxious person in the audience. Take a second to time. So we're running on it, so? Excuse me for a second. I won't tell you that I'm a tightwad and I'm not buying all the food on it. There's a rumor going around that I'm the richest guy in the room. That's a rumor that's following me. So, yeah, it's like the cash market of Congress. I've been needing to have a conversation. If you've already cashed in, well, then I'll take one. But other than that, please don't. Thank you.
Hey, Ellen.
How are you?
How did you have a job?
Okay, where'd you go? Where's Fletcher? Where's Fletcher?
Right there. I want to see the logo.
Look at you.
How are you? I'm a year ago.
What?
I said I'm a year ago.
I know. I saw this. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I meant to send you a message or send Charlie a message, but I didn't have so much.
Well, I was exposed to sick brother, worked out. I'm going to today, so this I
Just
It was crowded. I think we've ever had it. Anything? I think.
She's right there.
Oh no. I just need to hear, man. See if anybody's yelling at me. Hey man, how are you? Good to see you.
Okay, we are going to get started. Thank you everyone for your patience. I wanted to make sure that all of our wonderful speakers were here with us today. Thank you for coming out tonight. We are extremely... You got to get closer to the mic. All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Well, we're extremely excited that you are all here with us tonight. We are very excited to introduce a new PAC that's been formed in Johnson County that focuses on electing true conservatives regionally, both the DFW area, Johnson County, but also statewide. Back in May, a small group of conservatives acquired a PAC and decided that they wanted to start something here in Johnson County where we could motivate neighbors, motivate our community about certain issues that are really important to us all, and then be able to put on events like this one, the elephant in the room, where we talk about really important issues like property tax, or election integrity, or crime in our community. So be on the lookout. They formed a Facebook group. They're still working on their website. But this new PAC, it's called True PAC, Electing True Conservatives, is starting in our region, and they're really, really excited about getting more people involved. They're going to be vetting future candidates. If it's something that you're thinking about, you want to run one day, the PAC is going to be a potential resource for you. So Please keep an eye out for future events and future information about TruePact. But we're excited that the PAC has invited some really great panelists with us here tonight. Property tax obviously is all on our minds. It's something that affects everyone. It affects our family members. And Lieutenant Dan Patrick and our House Speaker Dustin Burrows have said that property tax reform is going to be one of the focuses on the upcoming legislature this session in January. Now, what exactly do those reforms, what are they going to do? You know, are they going to focus on the local government? Are they going to focus mostly on state government? We're hearing a lot of different ideas. And so one of the reasons why we're holding this event tonight is we have a lot of people who have a lot of experience when it comes to ISD, the city council, a lot of our taxing entities, countywide, statewide, they all have a lot of experience when it comes to property taxes, property appraisals, and so we want to hear from all of them. And so we hope that we have.
Here, I got a different one for you.
Hello? Hello? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So we hold it a little bit.
That worked great. This one? Hello?
There we go.
Hello?
There you go.
Sorry, sorry.
Oh,
Technical difficulties, I want to say a little bit further back. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge some of our elected officials that are here with us today. We have Carrie Eaton from the City Council of Alvarado with us.
go turn it on.
All right, I'm just gonna. We have Will Keaton, our new Johnson County District Clerk.
Yeah, that was good.
Chris Fletcher, the mayor of Burleson, is here with us. Gloria Clark, one of our precinct chairs, precinct 21. Larry Trammell from the Johnson County Flag Board. Mark Hayes from precinct 28, precinct chair. Maggie Wright, our precinct chair number 12. Nova Olson, precinct chair 45. Rhonda Miller, precinct chair number 30. Larry Scott from the Burleson City Council. Rick Bailey, County Commissioner in Johnson County. Precinct Chair 2. We have someone that came all the way from Brazoria County, their cat board. We have Judy, that's here on behalf of Senator Phil King. Sheila Lane, Precinct Chair number 1. Wendy Burgess from the Tarrant County Appraisal. Tina White, Precinct Chair 11. Peter Svensson from the Johnson County Cat Board. Eric Weathers, the Mayor of Cleburne. And Helen Irwin, our state representative. And then our keynote speaker tonight is State Representative Brian Harrison. Let me introduce you to our panelists tonight. First is Larry Scott. Larry Scott has called Burleson and the Crawley area his home since 1967. A retired senior manager with a 45-year career at the Union Pacific Railroad. He earned multiple performance honors, an FCC first class license, and NARTI Master Technician certification. Larry was elected to the Burleson City Council, place 4 in May 2023, and then re-elected this past May 2026. His community involvement includes serving on the Zoning Board of Adjustments, volunteering for city events, and advocating for foster children through the Johnson County Hospital. Michael Berlanga is the only tri-licensed certified public accountant, real estate broker, and senior property tax consultant in Texas. As a Texan American of Mexican descent, he consistently practices speaking the languages of English, real estate, and taxes. Both to the IRS and to various county appraisal districts statewide. He regularly travels the state at the invitation of state representatives and conservative think tanks, informing and empowering Texans versus taxes. Mr. Berlanga's message to all Texans is that they have a right to protest values, as well as challenge their local elected officials to be accountable for current and historical failures to fund education efficiently, while also unburdening property owners of school property taxes. Mr. Berlanga was recently a candidate for the state comptroller and believes it's important to educate Texans on the role of the comptroller when issuing property value studies requiring validation from local chief appraisers. Also on our panel is Greg Cooper of the Texas Transparency Project.
Whoa!
Most folks know Greg Cooper and his podcast. He's become very well known, and it's a podcast that a lot of elected officials or people running like to go on because he has real conversations with people who can make real impacts. The Texas Transparency Project bridges the gap between public information and public understanding. It collects, organizes, and analyzes public data using official records and transparent research methods. The Texas Transparency Project communicates clearly, educates communities, and empowers citizens to verify information, understand their government, and apply these same methods in their own community. And then last but not least is Jose Melendez from the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He leads both the Taxpayer Protection Project and the Government Reform and Oversight Coalition for TPPF. He brings several years of experience in legislative campaigns, grassroots advocacy, and coalition building, which has enabled him to cultivate genuine relationships across the state and nation. Mr. Melendez got his start by previously serving as the regional director in multiple primary states, and later as the delegate operations manager for Senator Ted Cruz's presidential campaign. So welcome our panelists tonight. one of the things we really want to do, and that's really important for a lot of these events, we want to be able to take questions from the audience as well. So what we might do is we might hear from our panelists, maybe we'll hear then from Representative Harrison, and then at the end, we can have questions from the audience. So let's get started. Property tax reform supposedly is going to be one of the main focuses for the legislature this upcoming session. I was recently at a TPPF event where it seems like a lot of state representatives, none in this room, were saying that, this is really just a local issue. It's not a state issue. It's, and so I was wondering if our panelists could kind of briefly give their thoughts about that. Is this a local issue? Is this a state issue? Is it complex? What do you guys think?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. This is an opportunity to have a great conversation with a variety of perspectives. But Article 7 of the state constitution says it's the duty of the legislature to fund an efficient system of education. I don't know how we can get around that word. The word's duty. It's not opportunity. It's not a good idea. It was the duty when the state was created to fund an efficient system of education to protect our liberties. I don't know how you define efficiency today, but it took me 4 hours to drive here. But there are some in this room that could protest their property values in El Paso in a matter of minutes. So I struggled with the questions that we were shared with today that we're going to conflate local taxing jurisdictions like the great, the city of Burleson and Cleburne and with school district taxes, when school district taxes are 50% of the pie. No matter where I go, I've been all over the state. So for my answer to your question is Article 7, the state constitution, it's the duty of the legislature, and we need to help Ellen, we need to help Ryan, because they're in the minority of the majority that even want to speak to the issue. That's my opinion as far as where the authority comes from and the duty as to conflate the two. I think that's campaign rhetoric, and it enables us to just continue to let us kick the can down the road. We're not, and to blame the cities and the counties. Thank you for letting me come here. I'm from San Antonio. We got the biggest deficit of anybody. But thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I came up here from Austin, Texas, so it's good to be back in real Texas. Thank you for the kind of introduction. You mentioned TPPF. We did a recent study that says that local government debt in Texas stands at $552 billion. And so that's over $500 billion. So when you ask what's the issue here, I think we've done several years of trying to tell local governments, your cities, your counties, your school districts, your taxing authorities, that we need to behave and we need to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. But what we've seen over the last couple of years is that has just simply not been the case for a lot of local jurisdictions. So I think it is incumbent on the next legislative session, the next legislature, to impose some guardrails, some healthy guardrails that protect taxpayers. And I know we're going to get into it, and I have a host of reforms that I want to talk about, because I think what we want to eventually see is the elimination of our school property taxes. But in order to get there, we need local governments to also be good stewards of those dollars.
First of all, I think. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank each of you for coming tonight. These kind of gatherings is what it's going to take to change the paradigm of the state government to help us out with property taxes. Without your voices, we'll never be heard. And without this committee that we have here, these great 3 men that are with me tonight, without their voices, this is going to go nowhere. So they'll need your support. Helen will need your support. Anybody that you can contact down in Austin will need to hear from you, because it is a paradigm. It's been the same old thing for a lot of years. We get appraisals, we pay property tax. Property tax goes to the cities and counties and school districts and do what they want to with it. And like you said, there's not a lot of guardrails there. We can pretty much do what we want. Here lately, we've got some restrictions, like on our no new revenue rate to our voter approval rate is 3.5% in municipalities. We can't go any higher than that now. Used to, we could go 10%. which, as we found out by going to 3.5%, that's all we need. We didn't need the 10%. So guardrails are important, and I appreciate any guardrail that we can get in the municipalities. It's budget year. This is the time, it may be too late, but this is the time you need to go to your school districts, your city councils, your counties, and let your voice be heard. What your opinion is about your property tax, what your opinion is about the budget. Review their budgets. I don't mind anybody reviewing our budget and coming to me and picking it apart piece by piece by piece. I'll sit with you all day long and we'll go over it. And there have been citizens that have talked to me about the budget, and they were right. They found things and loopholes that we never noticed. So I don't know all the ins and outs of the legislation, but I have talked to the bond councils, the INS part of the property tax, and I've met with them several times in bond committees. And as we all know, I think we all know it by now, we can only eliminate right now the M&O. We have to find ways and plans to eliminate the M&O. Bond councils have told me that the INS part of it, when they sell these bonds, that the investors guarantee these bonds through property tax, which is the most secure and stable way to repay a bond right now until we come up with a better method. So for right now, when we eliminate property tax, we got to focus on the M&O, get part of it, buy little pieces of that elephant at a time, and then we'll come back and circle back around to the INS portion on it. If we try to do it all at once, it's never going to happen. We've done that before. Y'all done it before in other facets of life, and you found out that it didn't work to try to tackle the whole elephant at one time. So I appreciate y'all being here.
So thank you for having me. True fact. Thank you for hosting this, and thank you for coming out and being a part of the process. To answer your question, property taxes is a state issue, and property taxes is a local issue. The reality of it is the state provides the tools and the blueprint for how our local governments, our counties, our school districts, our cities, ESDs, and our other local governments, the state provides the toolbox, puts the tools in the toolbox, and provides the blueprint. And then your cities, your school districts, and your counties, they use the tools that the state allows them to use to generate revenue to support the services that they provide. It's a symbiotic relationship. So the bottom line is, if you're going to address property taxes, you have to address it at the local level, and you have to address it at the state level. The state dictates how our local governments can generate revenue to provide services. Police, fire, education, and stuff like that. And our local governments have to use those tools to generate revenue to provide those services. So it's not only a state issue, it's a local issue too. And so to address it and to solve that problem, or to fix that problem, it has to begin at the state, because they have to offer more tools in that toolbox. They have to redraw that blueprint so the cities, counties, and school districts will have a different revenue source to fund. At the same time, what you pay in property tax is handled a lot more locally. There's certain things that the state will mandate that they do, and then there's things that they can decide to do. So depending on how you feel about the property taxes that you pay, or where you're at on property taxes and what lane you want to be part of that solution in solving this and providing relief to the citizens of Texas, there's plenty of lanes that need to be solved, and there's plenty of opportunities to do that.
So, Jose, what are some of the reforms that are being proposed for the state legislative session?
So I host a podcast at TPPF called Taxpayer Empowerment, where I interview local officials, state representatives, and advocates. And one of my biggest taglines is, before the relief package of any given session is even signed, local governments are already looking at ways to increase taxes on citizens. And so when you think about reforms next session, one of the foremost reforms I think about is what can we do to get a hold of these bond elections, right? So we had a May 2026 bond election or upwards of 70% of the bonds that were on the ballot passed, right? One that comes to mind is the $6.2 billion bond package that passed in Dallas. Dallas ISD put forth that bond to voters, and it passed with less than, I think it was 9% of registered voters showed up that voted on that bond. That's 9% of the registered voters in that community. But it affects everyone. And I think, well, one of the issues we have there is that the folks who show up, I was at an event in Dallas where I was speaking, and a gal that was seated next to me said, I was a poll worker at the polls today. This is early voting in Dallas. She said, a gentleman approached me and said, is this where you vote for the runoff election, right? Paxton, Middleton, all the sort. And she said, no, this is for the bond election. And the gentleman proceeded to turn around and get back in his car. I think people don't understand how consequential these bond elections are. And I think we need more of a runway to educate them as to how consequential they are. And so one of the reforms I see in mind is moving all these bond elections, these tax increase elections, to the uniform November election date where most voters, most people understand that there's an election. Second is a lot of times these bonds pass with 51, 52% of the vote, and just about any bond that's put on the ballot usually passes. I think it's somewhere between 70 and 80% of bonds that are placed on the ballot pass. Well, we did a study at TPPF just about half a year ago that looked at, well, what if we increase that threshold to, say, 60% or 66%, where it would require that much of the registered voters in order to get that bond passed. And that dramatic shift you see from 70% of bonds passing to sometimes under 50%, that is a huge deal. That means that's less bond debt that's being incurred by taxpayers. In fact, we looked recently, just this past year, school bond debt, just ISD bond debt in Texas stands at $236 billion. That's an alarming number. So those are two reforms that come to mind that I know are going to be heavily pushed next session. I've heard the big three, the governor, lieutenant governor, and the speaker speak on those reforms to an extent. So I assume those are going to be part of the discussion next session.
I think Mr. Berlanga, you recently ran for comptroller, and one of the things you ran on is that the comptroller's office actually does these valuations for property taxes, and they can come. We have a lot of people on the CAD boards here tonight, and a lot of people get mad at the CAD board. I can't believe you just appraised my property. And some people might not know that the comptroller's office does their own evaluation, and they can come and actually tell a CAD board, hey, raise these appraisals, you don't have it right. So maybe you can speak a little bit more to that.
Being my privilege. Governance Code 403-302, you don't have to memorize it. I'm the geek that'll help remind you, but Governance Code 403-302 specifically says that the comptroller will issue a property value study every 2 years, or every year if deems appropriate. Yet Glenn Hager, Kelly Hancock, Don Huffines, you can't find that on any of their information. What does that do? It makes a scapegoat out of every chief appraiser in every single county. We've redirected. The comptroller says, per code, this is the value of Johnson County, or this is the value of Bear County. And if the chief appraiser doesn't validate, that's not my word, that's the word of the law, doesn't validate that study within 95%, then your school district funding could be penalized. Now, I'm sorry, if we hired this gentleman to be the chief appraiser, and I'm the comptroller, and I'm not speaking to the opportunity I have to reduce the burden of making him the scapegoat, that I don't know if any of the candidates do what they were running for. And I mean no disrespect to anybody individually or personally. I think the world of Huffines. I think the world of Hancock. You know, and Glenn's off at Texas A&M now. But I can't get any of them to acknowledge this is your responsibility under the law. It's not an opportunity. That's what they have to do. Governance Code 403-302, comptroller issues the studies. If this chief appraiser doesn't validate it within 95%, then your school district and your school district, let me put this in perspective, because District 58 has approximately 23 school districts. District 10 has approximately 37. Why did I pick on those two? Because we have Helen and Brian here tonight. So All those school districts are at the mercy of a comptroller issuing a study that makes the chief appraiser the bad guy. So anybody that's here on behalf of the Appraiser Review Board, bless you for your seasonal work. That's all I can say. Bless you that you're here trying to make sense out of what the burden is on the government to prove up the values that are inflated, at least in Bear County. At least we're only, where I live and work, but I work all over the state. And I've said this, I don't know if the chief appraiser is here today, but there's not a chief appraiser that's disagreed with me. They are the scapegoats for the comptroller's property value study. And I would strongly urge you, now, trust me, I don't have a bias in this because Sarah Earhart hasn't figured it out either. And she's a Democrat candidate. So neither candidate so far are acknowledging that's the job they have that can affect. Please do not let, and I've gotten in the faces of state representatives. Please don't let anyone tell you, well, we don't have a state property tax. No, but we created school districts to tax your property to fund education long after the state was created. So I have in substance, I think we have a state property tax. It's called school property tax. And if we don't want to separate the two, then I can't answer most of the questions that we put before us. Because I'm not going to refer to the local taxing jurisdictions the way the governor does, and then to say, well, we've got 88 legislators on board. Well, then let's have a special session. Right now. Let's just get it. I refer to the other my colleagues here. He doesn't have to wait a day. There's no lead time. I went to school with his wife. I made the school choice of going to a private school. I've been blessed both ways. But I will tell you this, if we really have his support, then where's Burroughs? And where's Dan Patrick? Because Lieutenant Dan looks to Senator Betancourt. Senator Betancourt is a property tax consultant in 16 different states. If you think the system is going to go away with Dan Patrick's blessing, then why can't we ask him to do it now? Go Greg. But, the big three are not in unison. They're not saying we're signing up for Governor Abbott's 5-step plan. Texas PPF is doing its best to promote that. And I've had the blessing of representing Texas PPF for Hispanic outreach. So we're not divided here. But we are divided if we're thinking that the governor and the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor are on the same page. Because I haven't heard it. If you've heard it, tell me, please. I haven't read it. Thank you.
So, what are some practical things that we as a community can do? Greg, what are you seeing as far as particularly the local ISDs and how they're spending tax dollars, they're deciding to issue bonds? What can we do when we're at the end of the day thinking about how our property tax dollars should be spent?
The biggest problem with battling school districts and getting school districts to rein in their out of control spending is individuals have too thin a skin to walk into a school board because, no offense, humans are too worried about being labeled as hating children, as hating teachers, wanting big classrooms. I've been accused of being a tornado-loving portable building person. If you're afraid of being called a name, we will never be able to rein in any kind of out-of-control spending. That's the bottom line. They weaponize your children, they weaponize teachers, and they weaponize you wanting the best for the future generation against you to absolutely train wreck you financially with out-of-control property taxes. It's that simple. It's that simple. There's three types of school funding. Everybody knows maintenance and operation and interest in seeking. Maintenance and operation deals with the day-to-day operations of schools. It's what keeps the lights on, keeps the buses rolling, pays teachers, curriculum, does repairs, roof repairs, HVAC repairs, stuff like that. If they need to build something new, the mechanism is in place to do debt via a bond. The reality of it is there's a third line nobody wants to talk about, and that's Tier 2, which is a part of maintenance and operation. Tier 2 is up to 17 cents of additional funding. Not every district has it. Individuals in your local communities, if your district happens to have that, you voted to voluntarily increase your tax rate. 17 cents. 5 cents the board did unilaterally, 12 cents you guys voted for. To solve that problem, it's actually 3 problems. Everybody wants to champion eliminate property tax, and everybody in this room, I'm sure, wants that. But it's a complex problem. You have to solve the M&O lane, which is, there's a mechanism in place called compression. It's too slow. And there's a big, massive pot of money sitting in Austin that they love to control. That can work on solving maintenance and operations. Tier 1. Tier 2, voters voted to voluntarily increase their tax rate. That's a different issue, and every district's different. And then the bond debts, you voted to tax yourselves, if your community has a bond, up to 50 cents additionally. And then that's tied to investments. And those investments have to be seen through. You can't snap your fingers and go against that kind of stuff. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars of investment in these bonds. So this is a very complex problem. Look to your neighbors to your left and right. You guys are neighbors. The individuals that want the out-of-control spending in the school have a different political ideology than most of you in this room. It's their religion. They approach it differently. They are more committed to taking your tax dollars and taking control of your children and doing what they want with them. And until you play on that same field with that same level of commitment, you're not going to win that battle. And if you're worried about being called a child hater, a teacher hater, this problem will never get solved. It's the same thing we hear. Islamophobic, misogynist, name it, homophobic. People don't want to be called names. And if you don't want to roll up your sleeves, put some work in, this problem's not going to get solved. Yes, they'll give you relief. They'll trickle it down. They'll give you a little here and they'll give you a little here. And every time somebody gets targeted relief, you're taking a chess piece off the board that's willing to roll up their sleeves and put work in. And once enough pieces are off that board, property taxes will still be here. Whatever relief was given will still be there. But the bottom line is, if we don't go all hands on deck and become committed, this problem's not going to get solved. You'll get trickled some relief for sure, but it's not going to get solved.
I just want to add real quick to what Greg said, because he mentioned, the weaponization of our children. I like to say they're pimping our kids. That's what these people are doing. And I want to use an example just to paint a picture so that everyone understands the sheer problem that we have here with these bond elections. Royal ISD, it's a school district that's an hour outside of Houston, right? It's west of Houston. So it's very close to Brazoria. They passed a $72 million bond package for a new high school stadium this past May. Now, the troubling part is that just 6 months prior to that, in November of 2025, they had another bond election for $9 million to simply do renovations on that stadium. So what happened in that 6-month period from November 2025 to May of 2026, where they went from, it failed in November of 2025 when they were simply seeking $9 million for renovations to the stadium. Then they came back to voters for a $72 million bond package to build a brand new stadium, and that one passed. This election over here that passed was lower turnout. This one was higher turnout because it was in November. Most people know that they need to go vote in November. So what happened in that 6-month stretch? A lot of what we see happening is that these architects, these engineers, these financial consultants are all working behind the scenes to giddy up school districts. hey, look at the school district next door. They're building a new facility. You should too. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to start a PAC. We're going to start a whole campaign to ensure passage of that bond, because you know what it is? It's for the children. The children need a new natatorium. The children need a new football stadium so that we can better educate them. And so when they're pouring money into these PACs, let's say they're pouring $10. When those bonds pass, those same folks, those architects, those engineers, are the ones who usually get the contract, the bidding process, right? They usually get those contracts, and they get a 10 times a return on investment that they put into those PACs.
Can I segue?
Sure, and then I want to ask.
So I'm going to bring this locally to here about these PACs. Cleveland ISD has had 2 failed bonds recently. In their first failed bond, they advertised on social media, come learn about our PAC. And so I went to 2 PAC meetings. So in those PAC meetings, they're talking about how they had set up a long-range facility planning committee. So I went and looked at their long-range facility planning committee. In their long-range facility planning committee, which went over numerous months, the school district, if you're in Cleveland, use your tax dollars to give a blueprint to a PAC. They had a circle of influence. If you're an influential member of the community, they were targeting you months and months and months before that went on the ballot. They had a social media group. Who is going to champion our bond on social media? They wanted me on that one. They had who's going to put up signs? No tax increase signs. So this started in 2024 for a May election. A blueprint with tax dollars in the Long Range Facility Planning Committee. Then, when it failed, the next time, the school board voted to spend over $100,000 with a company called Advantage in Austin to do videos and graphics and train wreck your mailbox on social media to make you feel good and to lower your guard to voluntarily take on debt that your home's secure. Godly, because they got caught too much, twice has billed through Leaster Press, their legal team, twice has billed through their legal team, Mays Media Group, MMG EDU, to We Believe Godly ISD to feel good before they asked for $889 million. And then they did it with Advantage through Leaster Press trying to pass their recent 119. Why did they do it through their law firm? So when we open records to show you how your tax dollars are being, they can say, that's attorney-client privilege. Now our Office of Attorney General says, no, that doesn't qualify. But the delay gives us that information in hand after the election, so we can't use it. If you want the receipts, let me know. That's how they play this game. When you hear a bond is on the ballot, you are 25 miles in a marathon race. They are at mile 25 in a 26-mile marathon, and you're starting at mile 1. You're playing catch-up. And you have to understand that and know that going out the gate. Thank you.
Now, before we hear from our keynote speaker, I want to talk with Larry because property taxes, it's a passionate topic, but we also do care about all of our city services, things that our local government doesn't provide to us. We still want to fund education. So from, the city of Burleson standpoint, but just from a city local council, what are you, when you're hearing all this, what do you think is a balanced approach when we're thinking about how we want to still fund things that are crucial to infrastructure in our local city government?
Well, I think everyone here knows that there are critical issues and critical items within a city municipality, the county, all taxing entities that has to be funded, fire, police, and so forth. But there are things that don't have to be funded. In all my life, I've voted. And every time a bond election came up, I listened to the rhetoric. I watched the commercials. I said, we've got to have that. We've got to have that. I went down and voted. And then when I got into the politics, I found out that I made a mistake. When it comes up for election, when the bond package is put up for election, it's too late. You can either vote it in or vote it out. If you vote it out, you're making your statement that there's something in there you don't want. But when you do that, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What you have to do is in March, the previous year, or March that year, they start budgets. And they determine what they want to put in bonds and what they want to pay out of sales tax, what they want to pay out of property tax. And you need to get involved then. And you need to work with them. We need speakers. At the Burleson City Council, there are months that go by that we don't have a speaker. A citizen speaker stand up and talk at all. During budget session, we'll have one or two, and they'll have good points, and we'll listen to them, and we can't talk back to them by law. We look like we're just sitting there ignoring them, but afterwards, we do talk about what they said. So what I'd like to say and encourage all of you to do is not just vote. Be part of the system. Be part of the budget process. Be part of your community. Go to these meetings. Vote for your elected officials the way you feel that they should represent you. We have a lot of good representatives that have been in there 10 or 20 years, and they're doing a great job. And I've looked across the state of Texas, and I know what to look for now. And there's a lot of them that don't need a second term. They're not there for you, they're there for them. And you need to pick those out and get rid of them. The other thing is, these bonds get voted in by a majority vote. And in a city like Burleson, where we have 37,000 registered voters, guess how many people vote? 800, 900. Why don't we have 20,000 voting? People like Greg Cooper, these other gentlemen, there's people out here in this audience I know go out and beg people to vote in every way they can with advertisement, door-to-door, door hangers, and still only 800 people show up. So we've got to get people to vote somehow. What we're doing is not working. Status quo forever will not work. We've got to change the way and our approach to get people out to vote, and we need good ideas. We as individuals can't come up with ideas on our own. We have thoughts, but it takes a group of people to come up with a good idea. So I'm proud that every one of you are here tonight. I'm proud that you've organized this.
Thank you, Larry, and it's good to hear from a city council perspective. And now from a state perspective, I want to introduce our keynote speaker for the night. State Representative Ryan Harrison is a passionate and effective advocate for limited government.
Howdy. Okay, there's no way I'm normally adding this crowd. So, you okay? All right. Is this working? No.
It's off.
It's off.
1, 2, 3. There. Is that working? Okay, let's try this again. Howdy. Okay, guys,
Stand close to the deal.
Flashing red. There we go. Is that working? Okay, I'm not going to touch this button. We can see. Is this working now? Yes. Okay. My goodness. I won't make you say howdy again, but I will say it's great to be with you. Let me tell you guys, if you remember nothing else, and by the way, give a hand for our fantastic panel. Very fantastic.
There you go.
Can y'all?
You can try the other one.
Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, let me know. Okay. Y'all can hear me back?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Look. If you remember nothing else from this evening, please remember the next 2 words, and I mean this sincerely and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Guys, we're in the middle of summer, wrapping up summer, school starting, there's probably an infinite number of things you could be doing on an evening, in the middle of the week here in Texas, but you're here. You're gathering with other patriots who want to save our state. And how do you people believe, I think I know the answer, How many of you believe that our state is a state more safe? How many of you know that our nation is a nation worth defending? I hate that, and I'm not trying to bring this back a little higher level because I hate that in 2026 we sometimes have to talk about like saving Texas or saving America and phrasing it as a question like, well, are we going to save Texas? Are we going to save America? Guys, the left is on the march in this state and this country like we've never seen before. And the socialists, the Marxists, and even high they are open with their goal of destroying the United States of America. Bankrupting the next generation, indoctrinating them, okay, taking us down the road to socialism and Marxism. They don't even hide it anymore. All right, that's how bad things are. And let me tell you something. I believe that Texas should have the boldest, most conservative, pro-liberty government in the United States of America. If you don't have a reputation, right? Texas has a reputation for leading in limited government, low taxes, low spending, low regulation. But I'm going to be very honest with you guys, and I wish I didn't have to say this, but is it okay if I just speak honestly? Yeah. Can I tell you the truth just a little bit? No. I know her. Guys, here's the truth. The state of Texas and the Republican establishment, we have been just coasting on that reputation for far too long. And we got to start living up to it. And I know I can tell there's a lot of friends in the room, and a lot of folks I know I haven't met personally before. And let me just tell you that back up just say here, when we get to property taxes. I want to talk about property taxes as much as you do. But let me give you some context, because it's important to know the backdrop of all these discussions and what's really going on in the Capitol in Austin, Texas. And let me tell you, Republican leadership down there, we have not been doing as good of a job as the 30 million people who call the state home deserve. And when I got elected, I had the real honor. Before I got elected 4 or 5 years ago, I had the very real honor of serving as a senior member of President Trump's first administration. And I was the chief of staff of the biggest cabinet agency, and I moved home and ran for office. And I was just so humbled and excited that my neighbors and friends and neighbors in House District 10, which is not too far from here in Ellis County, elected me to go and represent them in the Texas legislature. And I was so excited to go to the Texas legislature, the Texas House, and lock arms with all these elected Republicans, because I believed, at the time anyways, that every elected Republican in Texas was fighting as hard for the freedom and liberty of the next generation as those of us who've been working under President Trump. And let me tell you guys, nothing could have prepared me for the shock of what I learned when I got elected. I walked into the Texas House. Well, by the way, you, the voters, you've done your job for 30 years. You've given Republicans total control of the state, governor's office, lieutenant governor, every statewide, massive majorities of the Texas Senate, massive majorities of the Texas House. Nothing could have prepared me for the shock of learning that Democrats control the Texas House. Guys, I'll walk in there, Democrats are literally chairing 40% of our committees. Democrat bill after Democrat bill, sailing through. Guys, as we speak right now, the most powerful person in the Texas House of Representatives is the parliamentarian. Not an official, not like a bureaucrat, he's the House parliamentarian. You don't know who is the House parliamentarian? I'll tell you, he's a guy named Hugh Brady. You don't know who that is? I'll tell you. Hugh Brady is a Democrat Party activist, and get this, a Barack Obama White House lawyer. As we speak right now, a Barack Obama staffer is controlling the Republican-dominated Texas House of Representatives. Did anybody here vote for that?
No.
Did any of you vote for what happened a year ago and a few months last session, the day we gaveled in, which is for the Democrat caucus to select the Speaker of the Texas House? Did any of you vote for that? No. That's exactly what happened. Did you vote for the Republican majority to not only not cut spending, we're going to talk about spending now, we're going to talk about property taxes. Did y'all vote for the Republican majority in Texas to pass the biggest, most liberal, most bloated budget in the history of the state of Texas that increased spending 42% in just 4 years?
No.
You didn't vote for that, did you? But we did that. I was shocked to learn that Texas, instead of leading in conservative values, the state of Texas, when I got elected, was possibly the biggest funder of unconstitutional and discriminatory DEI in the state of Texas. Did y'all vote for DEI to be used for tax dollars?
No.
How about this? Did any of you vote for your hard-earned money to be spent by our public universities to be indoctrinating the next generation into transgender ideology? No. That's been going on in Texas for well over a decade. I could not believe when I got elected 4 years ago to learn that the Texas government may well be one of, if not the biggest funders of DEI and transgender indoctrination in the United States of America. You didn't know that? Let's talk about spending again. We're going to go spending taxes. They go hand in hand. Keep in mind, spending is the true cost of government. Tax is what comes second. For government to do anything, they gotta, anytime they spend money, they gotta get it. So as government grows, what shrinks? Liberty. Well, let's talk about spending for a second. We have grown spending so much, unlike in the state of Florida, where Governor DeSantis has cut their budget every year for 3 years. I already mentioned the Texas government has exploded spending every year, 42% over 4 years. Guys, we now have a bigger debt, state and local governments combined, a bigger debt to GDP ratio. So the amount of debt we have relative to the size of our economy, we have a higher debt to GDP ratio than the People's Republic of California. Wow. Did y'all know that?
Headed for a crash.
True. But guys, so even though the voters in Texas, you, for many decades, have done your job. You gave Republicans total control of our state. Guys, we have been passing the Democrat agenda. I had my staff count 2 years ago how many Democrat bills were put on the floor of the Texas House. They stopped counting 5 times. Wow. James Talarico, let's talk about him for a second. You know about James? Y'all heard the name James Talarico, my colleague. There you go. Did y'all know that James Talarico was part of the team that elected our supposed Republican speaker, right? Do y'all want a speaker of the Texas House that's endorsed by James Talarico? Well, you've got that right now. And let me tell you, when our fake Republican speaker got elected, he returned the favor. He put James Talarico in House leadership. He put him on twice the number of committees that the most conservative Republicans get on, and made him vice chairman of multiple committees. And he still holds it. I have been calling on Dustin Burrows, our Rhino speaker, to strip James Talarico from his committee assignments for many months. Do you not believe that James Talarico should be stripped of his leadership? James Talarico had spent years trying to require ISDs, paid for with property tax money, to teach DEI. One of the committees that he co-chairs, Talarico, is the Committee on Academics and our close sources. Did you know this? Yeah. So none of y'all know that, right? So I find out we have a massive problem. And I go about and start telling people about this, okay? So apparently, I learned that's against the unwritten rules of Texas tax. So I get down there, and I go on, and Newsmax or Fox, I don't know what it was, just hated when I go on television. Hated. I go on, and I tell people, guys, we got Democrats sharing our committees. I said, imagine, I'm on TV, and I said, imagine if Speaker Mike Johnson had put Nancy Pelosi in charge of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Imagine if Mike Johnson put AOC in charge of the Armed Services Committee. And people were shocked. Right? So they, well, turns out they didn't like that very much. And I got called into the principal's office. I got sat down by a committee chairman who, if he were here today, he would tell you he's a conservative fighter. All right? And he sat me and he said, Ryan, we want to help you. They always want to help you. Yeah, right. They're always so concerned. They said, Ryan, it's clear to us you're confused. Do you think, and I'm not making this up, I have witnessed the room. They said, you believe you got elected to a legislative body. And I was like, yes, I do. Believe that. He goes, well, I'm here to clear this up for you. You didn't. Let me tell you what you really got. You got elected to a fraternity. And it's about time you start acting like it. And what that means is, you can't tell the people back home all this power we're giving them. I said, guys, I can't do that. I have 4 children back home. The oldest is 12 years old. Let me tell you guys, I am far more concerned about giving my kids a chance to grow up in a free and prosperous Texas than I am concerned about being loved by politicians and bureaucrats and lobbyists. The implicit deal they make to almost everybody, and that's the deal with me, is your life can be amazing. You can pass bill, and it takes no time to pass a bill in Texas House. James Talarico passed 65. Did y'all know this? James Talarico's got a legislative record to run on. You know why? Because Dustin Burrows prioritized his legislation over conservatives like Colin Kerr. Did you know this? James Talarico goes on national television 2 weeks ago and brags about passing 65 bills. Where's that? Where's that? Helen, did you pass 65 bills? No, because you're conservative. Right? They'll tell you your life can be amazing. Pass bills, leadership, committee assignments, most importantly, tax checks. They say you're here, congratulations. Now the most important thing is getting you reelected, and we'll make sure you have all the money you ever need to go to the next election. The only thing that's going to cost you is two things: your voice and your vote, and your soul. And I say, guys, I got to go to sleep tonight. I didn't come down here to keep the chair warm. We're on a path to becoming California. And let me tell you guys, we're not just a battle for the future of Texas. We're a battle not even for just the future of America. As goes Texas, so goes the nation. As goes the nation, so goes the globe. Guys, we're in a battle for nothing short of the future of Western civilization. And you're on the front lines of this. But I said a lot of negative things because you've got to know the environment we're operating down there. Republicans don't control the Texas Capitol. People who call themselves Republicans control. Guys, we don't have a Democrat problem in Austin. We got a rhino problem. And once you see Democrats and give down there, the Democrats are terrible. But let me tell you something, guys. There ain't enough Democrats to pass a birthday resolution in Austin unless Republicans help them do it. Okay? So we've got a problem with elected Republicans not doing the things they promised to do. And even though I rejected their deal, even though I stood up to them and continued to expose them and pressured it what I would argue is a wholly unprecedented level of transparency, instead of someone just saying, oh, Democrats control the chamber, or the Republican speaker killed the border security deal, it sounds so crazy. People have a hard time believing it, so I'm like, well, I don't know a lot about social media, but I got a phone. What if I just take it out and start videoing that it killed the border security? I now have the most hated social media in Texas. Because I openly have to explain to people. And Mama, you should see this. How much you can probably see it? You should say, I pull out my phone and look for the house. It's like cockroaches. And you're not going to be in these videos. All right? They don't want to do it. Okay, so, but let me tell you why, as bad as things have been, why I have lots of hope and why I have lots of optimism that we can do things like eliminate property taxes. Let me tell you why I got hope and why you should sue. It's because there's a lot of talk about unity in election time, but I'm not going to unify with people that are advancing the progressive Marxist leftist agenda. I got no interest. None. Right. Okay? What I want to unify with, and what I've been working on the last 4 or 5 years, I want to unify with you, and you, and you, and your brothers, and your sisters, and everybody who cherishes the principles of liberty. Because when I talk about being unified as we head into election season, the only real fight in Austin is between people who want to expand liberty and people who want to grow government. And you cannot do both, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
You can't do both, but they've forgotten this. So even though I stood up to them, and they threatened me, they told me, we're going to destroy you, we're going to primary you, we're going to fund opponents to you, and trust me, they did. The liberal fake speaker, the Republican in the Texas House, found 2 rhinos to run against me this year, gave each of them many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Very happy to see that I paid for sin and I'll come back to that. They have planted more smears in the media. They have done everything they can to try and destroy me, not because it's me, but they know that I'm speaking to you and for you. If you care about a better future for the state of Texas, you can't be supporting corporate welfare for data centers in liberal Hollywood. And guess what? The Republican leadership, both chambers, passed a bill called SB 22, which voted to steal, I'm not making this up, guys, so crazy, $1.5 billion of your money. They voted to keep property taxes $1.5 billion higher than they had to be, so they could get billions of dollars in liberal Hollywood. Oh, yeah. By the way, guess who's funding Gavin Newsom's presidential campaign? Liberal Hollywood. So think about that. Because of the bill, SB 22, Texas taxpayers are giving billions to Liberal Hollywood. Liberal Hollywood's funding Gavin Newsom's campaign. Thank you to the Republican leadership in Austin, Texas taxpayers are funding Gavin Newsom's presidential campaign. Did you vote for that? No. But guys, anyone that tried to destroy me, silence me, slime me, smear me, kick me out of the House, kill my legislation, my amendments, said you won't be able to be effective. Let me tell you something. We proved them wrong in big time. But working with the people, telling them the truth, we passed the biggest, we forced through the biggest conservative pictures that have happened in the last many years in Texas. I'll give you a couple of examples of that to go on and on. Remember that DEI program I told you about? Where state agencies were awarding contracts not on the basis of excellence or merit or price, but on the basis of gender and race. That's been going on for years. People have filed bills to get rid of this. They can't even get a hearing in the House or the Senate. I get elected, I find out about it. I used to work with the Trump administration. I said, I'm not going to take this, kill my bills if you want. I'm going around you. I referred to the Texas government to Donald J. Trump, the Department of Justice, and within 2 months we shut down the biggest DEI. president of my alma mater, Texas A&M, was a Barack Obama appointee, a DEI advocate who was spending millions and millions of your dollars on transgender indoctrination at Texas Public University and Texas A&M. I did something everybody else had told me was insane. I went public and I publicly called for the president of Texas A&M to be fired. I was told to shut up, sit down, they're never going to do it. It's too big. He's got too much power. And even though I was the only elected Republican that called for that, it took 8 months. But I'm proud to tell you that today that guy is the former president of Texas A&M. Every other university president in Texas was like, oh my goodness, I don't want Harrison tweeting about me next. Maybe actually get rid of this transgender. So guys, we working together delivered the biggest victory. Just for example, then we'll get property taxes. When I found out that the Texas government was actually not doing everything it could on border security, and worse, that the Texas DMV was registering the vehicles of hundreds of thousands or millions of illegal aliens in Texas, and no legislation to stop that would have seen the light of day in the corrupt Texas House. I still spoke up about it. I called attention, went on social media, went on regular media, told the people, and guess what? Y'all stood up, rose up with me. We melted the phone lines with the governor, and within 2 months, we shut that program down, and illegal aliens are no longer able to register vehicles in the state of Texas, and we did that together. That is objectively bigger than any piece of border security legislation that's been passed in many years in the state of Texas. You, the people, rising up in unity with somebody willing to give you a platform, to give voice to your beliefs, your principles, the principles that made Texas great and America great. That's what I'm fighting for down there. And let's move to property taxes now. But that's very important context. Because you're going to hear a whole lot of gaslighting. You're going to hear a lot of hand waving. You're going to hear a lot of rhetoric. Because guess what we're in right now, guys? We're in election season. And people have realized that maybe it wasn't a good idea, under all Republican control, to enact what is, by one conservative think tank's analysis, the highest effective property tax rate in the United States of America. Right here in Texas. We're not a low tax state. You can't say we're a low tax state if we've got the highest effective property tax rate. And let me know, because I always try to go back to first principles, the foundation. Let me know if you agree with me. I think when it comes to never-ending property taxes, I think property taxes are immoral, they are unethical, and we need to completely abolish them. Our current system is wholly corrupt. And if you've heard nothing from this panel, really complicated and confusing, let me tell you the secret, they don't want you to know it also. This is that confusing by design. They don't want you to know who to blame. Well, good news for you, I'm here to say, I'm going to tell you who to blame. There's a lot of blame to go around. They want it confusing. They don't want you to know who's responsible. They want to both be doing this. The state governments and the local government. The local governments amongst themselves, the taxing entities amongst an appraisal system. They want, it's like a shell game. Where's the ball? Who do you go to complain? You don't know. They do know this. I'm going to say last session, how many of you heard any of my colleagues, from the state level electeds on down, how many of you heard people in the Texas government say, applaud for us, we passed the biggest property tax cut in Texas history. Anyone heard this? Okay, let me say, well, that might be the biggest scam in Texas history. I joke with people like, how much did the biggest property tax cut on earth cost you? Okay, because you can say whatever you want. You can tweet whatever you want about how much you lowered property taxes. But then every year, when you go to the mailbox and you get that letter from the tax assessor collector and your bill is higher than it was the year before, well, not only was that not the world's biggest property tax cut, that wasn't a property tax cut at all. Let me say it's a property increase. That's the truth. And let me tell you, one of the many dirty secrets why, unless we really rise up next session, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. The rhetoric, I'm watching the rhetoric. It started with eliminating property taxes, then it was just schools, then it was just school in and no, and now just yesterday our rhino speakers said, well, we want to give people something that they can call relief. That's not good enough, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have any homeowners in the state of Texas. No homeowners on the current system. You can call yourself a homeowner all you want. You can be responsible. You can pay out your mortgage. But it's, when you find out real fast who owns your home, don't mail them that check at the end of the year. You're going to find out real fast who owns your home when they say, guys, it ain't you. We are nothing but tenants to government landlords. That might be the most un-Texan thing I've ever heard of. You should be able to own your home on your castle. Right? We don't have that. We've got to change that. Let me tell you some of the things that, to clarify the discussion we had in the debate. You're going to hear lots of finger pointing. Right now, my colleagues in the state are pointing their fingers at local electeds. So let me start with them. I know we're coming back to the state. You've got right now, in this month, your cities, your counties, your school boards are all doing budget workshops. They're proposing tax rates, and they're going to finalize tax rates. Here's what you need to know to be educated to help pressure them to do the right things. Because I don't think we should be eliminating property taxes. If we're not eliminating property taxes, we should at least be cutting them really big. That's not happening either. The bare minimum acceptable, stop raising it. Bare minimum. That's not good enough, but that's good. We're not going to get that. All across Texas, property tax bills are about to go. My home county, Ellis County, the county judge today just proposed a 12% increase in the rate of property tax. It's coming here too, guys. Let me tell you what they're doing. Because appraised values have, generally speaking, so I'm just talking in averages, okay? Generally, appraised values are going up, right? So that means is the rate will go down. But here's what you got to know, or supposed to know. Just because an appraised value goes up, that's not supposed to mean your tax bill is supposed to go up. What the state has tried to do, now you're right, you let your rights last, because it's what's happening. But what's supposed to happen, if the local elected official will do their job, if your appraisals go up this much, again, on average, they're supposed to take your tax rate, let's say this is your tax rate and this is your appraised value. Then we're going to know. Your tax bill is determined by two things, the rate and the appraised value. Yeah. That equals your tax bill. I'm going to focus on the rate right now, because that's really what matters. Just think about it. If a 0% tax rate, it don't matter what they appraise your house. Right? It's $0. So I want the rates going down as close to zero as possible. And ultimately, it's to zero. If your appraisals go up, what they're supposed to do, let's say appraisals go up this much, they're supposed to take the rate and lower it by the same amount. That means they want to pay more than you did last year. That's called the no new revenue rate. And it actually gives the government a whole lot of new revenue that's too complicated. So any tax official, what they're going to do, your assessed values go up, they're going to lower the rate, but they're only going to lower it this much.
So they still get more money.
So they get more money, and you get a higher tax bill, but what do they get to do? They get to say, I lowered your tax, here's the word, rate. If you hear a local politician bragging about cutting your tax rate, you're talking to a politician that probably raised your property taxes. Right. They've got to lower it to the no new revenue rate or lower. And every local elected official who sets any rate higher than the no new revenue rate in an arm is somebody who voted to raise your property taxes. Right. So you need to know that. It means to right now. To mean your city councils, your school boards, your county commissioners, your county judge, your subs, all your locals. Say, guys, we are on to you. Don't talk to me about rates. Prove to me that my bill is going to be lower this year than it was last year. And what that means is your no new revenue rate or lower is where you got to set a tax rate. So that's on the local side. Well, let me go to where the responsibility ultimately lies. And I may well be the only state elected official that is going to tell you this. The people ultimately responsible for the disaster we're in on property taxes, they've got offices under the Pink Dome in Austin, Texas. Because the local governments in Texas, they can only do what the state government allows them to do. It's very different in the way our states form the federal government. In the state of Texas, it's the state that form the local governments. They're called political subdivisions of the state. So they can only do what Austin lets them do. And let me tell you, all the property tax relief bills are so crowded, let me tell you all they're really doing. They're not lowering dollar amounts on bills. All that we're debating last session, in those special sessions, your special session for property tax, a special session, all those bills really did was we were just sitting around arguing on the floor of the House over how much property taxes not going to be eliminated, not going to go down. All we were debating was how much property taxes could go up without you getting a voice in the election.
Oh.
That's it. That's what we did. And then there's one other piece of this. Because you will hear my colleagues say, guys, how can you get upset? $51 billion in property tax. Have you heard this? $51 billion. Have you heard this? They throw this around. Let me say what this is. $51 billion in property tax relief. Which has, by the way, led to record high property tax bills. So it's not working. Okay? And I'm not even sure 51 billion is right. But let's just assume 51 billion is right. These are important things to discuss. This is the last one, and then have to go for questions. Let me tell you how the current property tax relief standard works. They hit $51 billion, and they tell you we're going to fund property tax relief with it. But what they don't want you to ever think about, what the question they do not want you to ask, where did that $51 billion come from in the first place? Thank God we don't have our own Federal Reserve. We don't have a printing press on us. Thank God. Okay? So for the state of Texas that has $51 billion, it has numbers. Look to your right and look to your left and say thank you. Okay, that is where the $51 billion. So even if $51 billion is the amount they tell you we're spending on property tax relief, what do you need to start? What they do with it, though, instead of getting it back to you in the form of lower taxes, they're handing it to local governments, primarily school districts. And the school districts, what they do is they turn around, so Austin takes 51 from you, they turn around to the school district and say, here, ISD, here's $51 billion, and divide it between the districts. These school districts go, oh, thank you very much, state governments, and then they turn around, increase spending, and they go right back to you and increase your property tax bill. Under our current regime, property tax payers are getting hosed on both ends. You're paying for the $51 billion of relief, and the people who got the money raise your property tax bills. Does that sound like a system that y'all support? No. It does. So I'm getting the high sign here. So I'm going to close with this and then open it up for questions or however you guys want to do it. I've got a newsletter that's going to be handed out because let me say that the actual reason I have hope, I believe people are having their eyes open like never before. So the corruption that's been happening at the hands of both parties in Austin, Texas. And I need y'all more than ever to partner with me in the fight as we go into the next session, because oftentimes my Twitter feed is look where you go to truly understand the truth about what's going on. Because I don't care what the establishment thinks about me, and I don't care about how much they correct me. And if it ultimately costs me my seat, so be it. I'm going to go to bed with my head on pillow with a clean conscience, knowing that every day I was in the Texas legislature, I fought for government to be smaller, for you and your kids to be more free. And I'll close with this one line. Let me say this, because everyone's always trying to figure out what I was doing down here. I was looking for an angle. It's so simple, guys. Let me know if you agree with this. In one sentence, I can summarize everything we talked about tonight. I'm fighting to make government as irrelevant to our lives as possible so we can be as free as
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Is it possible you could be the Speaker of the House next week? Let me say, Matthew says with God, all things are possible. But is it probable that you would at least give us an opportunity?
I don't want to test people's limits on how fervently they believe in Scripture. Okay. I don't want to do that. But let me tell you what. I'll say this. I ask for stuff all the time, including that. I'm just going to go back to the beginning. All I want is for Texas to have the boldest, most fearless, most pro-liberty, conservative leadership in the United States of America. That's what I want. I do need to get a shout out real quick, and this because I mentioned multiple things tonight. The Hollywood bill, SB 22. I mentioned the bloated liberal budget. Can you please join me in giving her a round of applause, because Helen Kerwin was one of the few that voted against both the Hollywood bills. Somebody else had a question. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I'm not going to say something very popular.
Well, join the club.
I think we stand a very good chance of having Gina in a host. And I think it's because of education. And so, what I'm struggling with right now, after talking with teachers, I've been on this fight, ask anybody in this room. I've run for school board, I've been fighting godly ISD for years, I've been villainized. I've made t-shirts for eliminating poverty. I'm on this train. However, I'm sick to death about our education system. And there's so many problems with it. Some of that is funding. Some of that, and I'm just going to come straight at you. I appreciated so many things that you did. That voucher bill was terrible. It grew government. We're going to have more standardized testing, not less. There's more vendors.
I didn't vote for that. I voted against that. No, I was one of the very few Republicans that opposed the new testing process.
But what I'm saying is, overall, we have made it a worse position. I'm all for getting in and saying, what can we do to fix it? But I'm upset that we are in the place that we're in, because I don't think anybody has done a good root cause analysis on what we can do to fix it, and I'm afraid that we cannot right this ship because that passed and other things, okay? I support you.
I know there's a lot of people that want to have questions, so.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on all of that. It would take half an hour or an hour to unpack. I'll say that it's only this on education. We have two trends that we've got to fix. The Republicans and Democrats acknowledge this. We have two things happening. Education rates are plummeting. Only 23% of Texas 8th graders are proficient in reading and mathematics. 23%. While liberal indoctrination is on the rise. If we do not fix this, within 18 years, every freedom and liberty we cherish will be on the chopping block. And that is why, at a philosophical level, I support competition in education. We have got to give parents a relief valve. If their school district is not educating, but only indoctrinating their kids, we've got to give parents a choice. I fully disagree with the way that we did most of these school choice package last session. And over the vast majority of it, HB2, most of it was in that, I voted against that. One of only 4 Republicans to vote against it. The way we packaged it was an absolute abomination. And there's no way around it. Yes.
So what do we do? I mean,
we give parents more power and we put more competition into the ISC system.
yeah, I'm retired.
And funding is not the biggest problem. We spend $20,000 per year per kid, just so people know. It's a
I taught for a long time. I've taught for a long time. I was a teacher, star testing, TAS, and TAF. My background is Montessori. There's not testing. Well, we did do the Iowa test, and you're still doing that. So,
yeah, they're starting to
how when I go to school board meeting and say, sorry, I don't want to. How do you get rid of star testing? It's so bad. It's making like really hit the ground. What do you want me to do? I'm failing everything.
We got to get that from the top. Yes, on that one you should know I voted against the revision of star testing. We did not go through it. Yes.
All 5 of you very aptly describe a taxation system that is intentionally convoluted and beyond repair. It really is like pointing at each other. What would you guys think about eliminating property tax, going to a consumption tax by raising the sales tax? And then instead of having millions of people fighting cab, fighting their appraiser, fighting this, hiring outside companies, salaries, offices, vehicles, insurance, everything for all the people that work in the business of property tax just going away. So then there's only one fight, and that fight is between the people of Texas and the taxing authorities. And if they want more money, they have to go for a referendum to raise it from, let's say, 10%, just throw a number out there, to 11%, and then all the people have skin in the game. You say rich people should pay more taxes, they will. They spend more money. So people will pay less taxes, they don't spend as much.
How do you do it? Switching to a consumption model. I absolutely believe that a consumption model would be infinitely superior to the scam at Shellgate, at least never any property tax increases every year, and multiple white papers have been written on that, and we should get to one of those solutions. I'm going to look, you know, has the time to talk, so I'll just close by saying this, guys. As President Ronald Reagan used to, I think, correctly say, America was the last best hope for mankind on earth. Guys, as every day that goes by, I am more convinced than ever that Texas might well be the last best hope for America. And we need to let the Republicans to start acting like it and fighting harder for the future of the radical Democrats. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Please, if you want to do the question and answers, please line up over here where you have a microphone you can speak in. So if you want to ask a question, you need to come here and line up. Okay? Thank you.
And while you're lining up, our county would like to briefly address them.
And we're going to have some closing comments I think everybody's going to want to hear.
I would just like to say that the last 3 years in a row that we have not adopted anything from revenues. Our county is very conservative, and I think there's someone that kind of agree with the heads of what we do. Here from the state mayor's office, work for us, and that's to have their presence here. But I just want to tell you that not one size fits all for county government. If you didn't know, I just want you to know this. Everything that we do, all the services we provide, the sheriff, law enforcement, all that we do in Johnson County comes strictly from property taxes. We collect zero sales tax in this county. Out of 254 counties in the state, there's about 90 of us that do not collect sales tax. So we are all taxpayers. Eliminating property tax, I've been having that conversation with Craig Honey since the beginning of this. And I have always said, behind this law. And here we are tonight. And we're talking about all these different taxing initiatives. But until we get appropriations to capital, until we get some serious looks at how those dollars are funded, we're going to have this conversation with our grandkids. Our grandkids will be having this conversation. But I just want to tell you, as an elected official in this county, and you're open, it's open to everybody in this room. We are as transparent as we can be. Greg Cooper has attended our court many times during the budget process. There was one bond that passed last November that had to do with roads. Our speaker was late getting here tonight because of congestion. One school board, well, one school bond passed in that last election cycle. You know, that the needs are going to continue to grow in this county. What you don't know is the unknowns that we have to deal with on the commissioner's board. $2 million increase just to ensure our employees this year alone. So the Texas says we must provide that. That just came at us as a cost that we have to absorb. We, the taxpayer. So there's so many things that we provide at the county level that people just take for granted. Ambulances in the unimproved or unincorporated area of the county. That is not a mandate, that's something that we do as a service to the people of this county. And those are some of the costs of good.
You cut out.
Okay. Let's go. This is happening all now, but I just wanted to address all of it and tell you that we have to find a way. But one size does not fit everything. What happens in Harris County cannot dictate Johnson County. What happens in Austin, Travis County, Fair County cannot dictate what happens in this county. I stand here before you to tell you, we're not like Ellis County. They said that it's coming here, it's not coming here. Ellis County, they basically dug themselves in all over here, that's their problem. That's not going to be
We have a question.
Thank you.
Some questions for our panelists that I know Dennis would love to answer. We just ask that you actually ask the questions. That's something that they can address.
We're not very much speaking.
Okay. I'm not prepared for this because I'm not prepared for this, or I would have brought this stuff with me. It's on my computer. But I was looking at this graph, and it said that over the last 20 years, that the amount of students has stayed just about the same and maybe dropped a little. The teachers have stayed almost the same and gone up maybe +5. That the principals and assistant principals has gone up like to 30%. But that the administrative staff has gone up 95%. Now, how do we get rid of all these extra school districts that are obviously sucking all the money out of the schools?
So I'll take that question. And actually, the person behind you can probably answer it better than I can. Former trustee Kate Lane, let's give Kate Lane a hand. She's up here. So traditionally, you would have a principal, you would have a small administrative staff, a business staff, and you had a frontline teacher. But the bottom line is, over time, what we have done with our public education system is we've created a jobs program with upward mobility that's unnecessarily, it's redundant, and This is not an anti-teacher thing. This is an upward mobility where they have created positions and jobs to create upward mobility and new positions, and instead of keeping teachers where they belong in a classroom. So teachers are on a track to not be teachers, to be administrators inside of a bloated entity. And you're absolutely right. And that is an internal problem with the school districts and the state, putting a lot of mandates on. But the bottom line is, we control who is elected to school board. That school board controls what happens inside of that school district. I've just looked at an agenda that's posted today for next week about the ISD. They're delegating, they're hiring authority to the superintendent. Why would we elect a board who is then going to delegate the very important decisions they're elected to do to the superintendent? We have created a school system to where the superintendent is a peer to who they're supposed to oversee. It's called the team of 8. This isn't our problem because we are too weak to go in there and tell them that they are accountable to us and that they need to be results driven. We have to get off our butts, and all of us, go to our church groups, go to who you have coffee with, go to events like this, network, and then grow some thick skin and lock arms and go side by side and say enough is enough. This isn't a jobs program. This isn't a welfare program. We're in the education business and you're failing. You need to fix it. And it starts with looking internally and stop blaming everybody else for everything. And they have to be held accountable for their performance. And that's the reality of it.
I'll give you 2 talents. I gave you the talent to calculate, and finally I've learned to communicate. So I wasn't ignoring everybody here. But in Representative District 10, we have 37 ISDs, give or take. I did my math. In District 58, we have 23. Now, would anybody tell me what the rhyme or reason is why we have districts that the average number of students are 2292 in one state representative district to 4378? There is no rhyme or reason for 1,250 ISDs for 254 counties. Y'all may not know this. The reason we have 254 counties is because our founders had enough vision to say it's a day's horseback ride from the county line to the county seat. That's why we have a rectangle. But there's no rhyme or reason for 1,250 ISDs. And I challenge anybody on an ISD, if you have the ear of any school board member, ask them, why couldn't we possibly consolidate with the next school district, eliminate one superintendent salary, flip a coin? I'm not biased. I don't have a dog in anybody's hunt here. And then take that money and give it to the teachers. Because I wouldn't be here as the only geek with 3 licenses if it wasn't for teachers. But your administrative question falls right on what I said at the outset. And while we may have 2 state representatives that we're rallying around, there's 179 legislators that don't know that their duty is to fund education efficiently. It's not a good idea. So to your point, we can build it from the ground up. Ask every school board trustee to ask every superintendent which one of you wants to really consolidate, put more money in the classroom, and then ask every single state representative and state senator, who are you talking to finally hold them accountable to doing their duty? That's the words of the Constitution. If you want to talk about the 10 Commandments, with God all things are possible. Right? That's what Matthew the tax collector said. But it is certainly not probable if we don't get in front of Bob Hall and Helen and Brian and say, it's enough for us to gather, but we got to go out. We've got to get to the rest of the legislature because they're not listening. He's just not finished telling you that. But I appreciate the local effort. God bless you in the message. But it's from the top down. Because I have 4 legislators that hire me to protest their property values. That's how ridiculous this system is. That a legislator has to hire me to lower his taxes or her taxes. Thank you.
Okay, so I have two questions. So I'm going to start with the first question, and then so you can address it, and then I'll ask the second question. The first question is: state law has changed to where districts and city councils, when a budget amendment or a budget hearing is on the agenda, they are required to post the budget with that agenda. Godly ISD refuses to do that. They refuse to follow state law. I contacted the Attorney General's office to basically hold them accountable for violating state law. And the lawyer at the Attorney General's office basically told me that the citizens actually have to uphold the law, not the Attorney General's office. And we have to use all the money we don't have because I pay $10,000 a year almost in property taxes. We are supposed to hire our own attorney to hold these governments accountable. So, my question is, who is going to hold these districts accountable? The citizens do not have the resources or the finances to go hire an attorney and require their school district to be accountable to the people and post these budgets with their agendas.
Unless the Attorney General is running for U.S. Senate, I can't think of a better time than now. And not now, then when.
Yeah.
You know, we can all sit here and say, well, we're voting for Ken, we're not voting for Talrico for all his issues. But just like the governor, we got time right now. Everybody can leave this room right now and say, Governor, let's have a special session. And Ken, come on, step up. One last push, because he does have that authority.
The bottom line is yes, we have an accountability issue. It's whether it's open records, whether it's TOMA, whatever type of accountability is. And I can't answer specifically. I don't have enough legalese law experience to do that. I don't want to go down that lane. But the bottom line is the legislature can put teeth into some of the legislation they pass. One of the things that's going on, and it applies a little bit to this, but I'm going to deviate from the specific question you asked. The state will pass legislation that actually is pretty decent. Two pieces of legislation were passed last session, HB 103 and SB 1453. Both of those pieces of legislation go directly to what you're saying, Caleb, go directly to what you're saying. And HB 103 forces things like, this is basic stuff. Now, most of your cities are already doing this. A lot of your cities are doing this. The county's doing some of this. But the school districts love to hide it behind those dark corners. So it forces them to do things like let you know how much debt that you owe. Let you know what the principal and interest is on that debt. Let you see check registers. Instead of having to go open references, they're putting it on the site now. SB 1453 is going to require them to make you, the citizens, aware of how low your tax rate can be to actually pay the bond debt. They keep it higher than they have to because it's harder to tax you appropriately and then say we have to raise your taxes because we have to build a new school. So they keep it higher. SB 1453, you're going to see this. They are currently right now using a process called defeasance of debt to get around that. So what happens is the legislature will pass something and there's a delay until it gets implemented. And TASB, Texas Association of School Board, goes to work with their law firms and they look for workarounds. And they look for workarounds. So your tax dollars are going to find a way to circumvent well-intentioned legislation. And this is what one of the biggest problems is. If you're not looking at what Austin's doing, and then you're not understanding what their intent is in Austin to see what happens locally, you don't see how they're manipulating the intent of the legislator. And by no means am I defending what's going on in Austin. But they do some good things, and then it gets bastardized down here locally. That's what happens. And that's what happens. And so if you don't see both sides of that, you'll never see how it's being manipulated. And then they have what's called the catch-all, which is so if I tell you that your school is a district of innovation, what does that mean to you? What would you think? Hey, we're a district of innovation. District of innovation is a way that they get around following the rules. It's too difficult for us. It's too burdensome for us. We can't hire enough certified teachers, so we're going to hire uncertified teachers. And they call it the District of Innovation Plan, and they're actually using that to get around the rules. It's a valid tool, because you can't expect Rio Vista or Blum to have the same resources as Dallas and Houston. But they abuse it to work around the rules, and it's wrong. So legally, I can't answer that question, but those are some of the things that go on that cause these problems.
And then just a statement about budgets too, is when they do post the budgets, they're so vague. As a former trustee, I refused to approve a budget because it was only 5 pages. And there was so much hidden that I didn't know where the money was going. So even when they do post the budgets, it's so vague. There's so much abuse in school districts, y'all. Like, I want everyone to every school district should have to do a fiscal audit, just more than what's required. Forensic audit, I should say. But also, my second question is regarding bonds, which are a huge problem. So state law requires them to put on the ballot, this is a property tax increase. And now let me tell you what school districts do. They lie to you, and they tell you that the state just requires them to put that on there, but it doesn't actually mean what it says, and it's not a property tax increase. But they think this is just unicorn money that rains from heaven and pays these bonds. No, it's paid for with your tax dollars. And I've killed the last 3 bonds at Godly ISD, and when they put another one, I'm going to kill it too. But bonds are a tax increase. I don't care what they tell you, they are, okay? But districts lie, and then they electioneer, which they're not legally supposed to do, but they do it all the time. How do we stop this problem? Because they have big pockets to pass these bonds and to electioneer and to lie to their tax base to get them passed.
So the tactics that school districts use, I wrote it down to make sure I didn't miss any. She emailed the no tax rate change. So if you owe $400,000 on your house, you bought your house 20 years ago, and you owe $400,000 on your house, you have 10 years left to pay that, right? And they restructure that debt, and they push it out to 30 years and keep your payment the same. Are you going to pay more taxes? You're going to pay more taxes? So people need to start asking the question, what happens to my taxes if I say no to passing your bond? Right. If they're artificially keeping the interest and sinking rate high, if they're artificially keeping that rate high, they can say it won't affect your tax rate. You need to start showing you what happens to it if you say no to that bond. Cleveland ISD could have dropped their tax rate 30 cents. 30 cents. They can do it. They can do it. They're choosing to keep it high because they know it's harder for you to say yes to pass a bond when they are honest with you and they say, we've been taxing you appropriately, we need more money, and that is a tax increase. Therefore, now we're going to continue to tax you appropriately, and it's going to raise your tax rate. It's a shell game. And then they also do what's called bond refinancing, which is pushing it out to the right. So what that does is that frees up short-term space. It frees up short-term space. It's pulling equity out of your house. You're not paying more necessarily at any given month, but if you're paying for an additional amount of time, you're paying more taxes. Yep. You're paying more taxes. Bottom line.
Do you think the school funding system isn't too big to fail?
It's failed. It's just we don't know it yet. We haven't admitted it yet. It's failed. It's failed.
We have time for just one more question because we have time limits on the building. I know that our panelists will be around if you all have questions. They want to answer your questions. So, Larry, if you want to.
Okay, I'm Larry Charmel. I'm on the local CAD board here. I'd like to ask the question of Larry, but anyone can answer or talk about this. How would you respond to concerns that replacing property taxes with a higher sales tax could disproportionately affect lower income Texans?
Can I start with this? This is one of the most misleading representations of Lieutenant Governor Patrick.
and I say that with no disrespect to him as a human being. You all know what the Legislative Budget Board is? I didn't. Look it up. It's another acronym for allegedly a group of leaders that allegedly, like some think tank, says to the lieutenant governor, if we eliminate property tax, we're going to have to get a sales tax up to 24%. He's on record saying that. So therefore, we can't do anything about property taxes. Let's just pass the law. Because the Legislative Budget Board, nobody knows who that is, but I can tell you, leaders in the state government, the LPG, is who he goes to as a reference point with the big microphone and says, we can't do it. Doesn't talk about funding efficiently education. Doesn't talk about redefining what efficiency means. But I would challenge Lieutenant Governor Patrick to a debate over the LBB as being some sort of third-party authority over the ability for Craig or anybody, whether you want to eliminate all property taxes and go to Mars, or if you want to just get rid of school taxes and go to the moon. But for him to continue to rant while Senator Betancourt will continue to say, to whatever he needs to say, because he has a conflict of interest. And so therein lies the problem for the governor, and as well as this triangle. I defer to my colleagues because I really struggle as I spoke to the county commissioner. Stop conflating school taxes, that's the duty of the legislature, with cities and counties like the councilman here, whose responsibility is an emergency. Life and death, fire. He's got a responsibility that we can't comprehend. And yet not a single legislator gave a good gosh darn to the responsibility after the Uvalde shooting. We don't even have emergency surveillance in our classrooms.
Larry, if you architect the bill correctly, it's not regressive to the poor. The comptroller has a list of the 130% of the federal low-income people in Texas. And if you architect the bill correctly against that 130% for a rebate, a low-income rebate, then that compensates for the loss that they have. And that brings me to another point. A year ago, Chris Fletcher, the mayor of Burleson, came to me and talked to me about property tax reform. He said if we had 1 cent sales tax, what could we do with it? And then he came up with some numbers, and I told him I would take it and run with it. That was a year ago. Yesterday, we finished the bill. We have a consumption tax bill that Helen has worked with us on for a year. Tomorrow, I gave it to her today. Hopefully, within a week or two, it'll go to legal. And if it passes legal, then it'll be filed in November. It's a 2.75% consumption tax. It will eliminate the M&O tax for county and municipalities 100% on the second year. So the way this bill is drafted, that all cities will still have to use the CAD board. You still have to use the chief appraiser. The property tax will stay in effect. There will not be a property tax. The city will have to use that property tax adjustment to get their certified replacement value, which is what they would draw every year off of property tax with a property tax rate. That'll be compensated through the comptroller, through the state tax, and covered. That'll be their certified recovery amount. And they'll only get, each city and each county will only get what they would have got in property tax, not a penny more. Now, by maintaining the property tax structure, that gives the state government control over the municipalities and the taxing entities, because they can control what the comptroller and the CAD board does and the chief appraiser. There is an equity clause in this bill that no city or no county in the state of Texas will be less than any other. It's an equalization program where the state tax will be distributed equally, and within the second year of this tax, no one will be paying M&O on county or municipality tax. For example, we have a calculator here, and Godly, and this is for the mayor of Godly who's here. I don't know if he's still in here. But once this bill is passed, the first year, his M&O property tax on a medium home, which is $350,000, will go from $1,453 to $246. And the reason it's at $246 is because there's a 15% reserve pulled out the first year, and that's kept in a fund for volatile years. So if your sales tax goes down, you've got that 15 cent to fall back on. The city or county doesn't lose any money. The second year, what that citizen will pay is $0. All the way through, I've calculated to the 10th year. So through the 10th year, they'll pay $0. It's 2.75%, which brings it up to 9% state tax. There's another clause in here. And because we understand that we don't want to create a savings account and that there will be more tax collected than what will be used, there's a clause in here that if the comptroller sees 10% increase year over year in that savings account, that he has the authority to go to the legislator to reduce that sales tax. And the way I have it calculated, between the third and fourth year, the comptroller will be able to reduce that sales tax. Now, in the meantime, we have to continue to fight property tax, because that's the tool we have to adjust that reduces that CRA, the certified return amount, to the city. And if we do that, the more we do it, the sooner we can lower that sales tax again. And if we keep reducing the property tax adjustments, we can keep reducing the sales tax, the consumption tax.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we need to support Helen on that bill. She should be filing it in November.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. It's a remarkable thing.
Tonight, I think that our next portfolio.
Yeah, thank you all. You make a difference.